Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have roll call, please?
Chairman Williams.
Here.
Vice Chairman Shavir.
Here.
Secretary Chambers. Dr. Faison. Member Baker.
Here.
Member Ritchie.
Here.
School Board Member Hare.
Here.
And we have quorum. Next is approval of the minutes for February 8th, 2017.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes for February 2017.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And since these are not quasi-judicial, we can go right into the... See, I'm cutting time off this. So with that, I guess we can go to the first item, since it's not quasi-judicial. Correct?
Okay, so item 9A starts on page 8 of your packet, and this is future land use amendment number 2016-02A, and this is relating to the public, semi-public, and educational land uses. Brief summary: on October 12th, 2016, Council approved advisability to consider amendments to the future land use element relating to educational land uses. The future land use map includes educational future land use designations which are not directly supported by objectives and policies within the future land use element. On December 13th, 2016, the City Council approved transmittal of CPA 2016-02A. After review by the Department of Economic Opportunity, no objections to the proposed amendments were sent to the City. The transmitted changes included the language recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission and approved by City Council regarding vacant land owned by Brevard County Public Schools. The original language only referenced where schools were already built. And so the ordinance starts there on page 9 and continues on through page 11. And then the strike through and underline changes that were made are on page 12 and 13. And so the language that's in the blue there on page 12 was the language that was added at the request of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and City Council agreed to that, and so that has also been included in the ordinance. And with that, I will try to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of staff? Okay, with that, we'll open this to the public and close this to the public. Is there any comments on the item? Okay, can we have a motion on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the future land use amendment 20-16-02A.
Okay. Okay, is there a second? Can we take a vote on this?
Member Baker.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Shavir.
Yes.
Member Ritchie.
Yes.
Chairman Williams.
Yes. All right, motion passes. Next item, please.
Okay, the next item, item 9B, starts on page 14 of your packet, and this is future land use amendment number 2016-02B, and this is relating to the recreational land uses, and this is for adoption. And so here again, on October 12th, 2016, Council approved advisability to consider amendments to the future land use element relating to recreational land uses. The future land use map includes a recreational future land use designation, which is not directly supported by objectives and policies within the future land use element. On December 13th, 2016, City Council approved transmittal of the amendment, and after review by the Department of Economic Opportunity at the state, no objections were transmitted to the city. The transmitted changes to the state included the language recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission and approved by City Council regarding educating the public via internet-based resources such as social media. The original language only referenced posters and newspaper articles. And so here again on pages 15 and 16 is the ordinance, and then on 17 and 18, the strike-through underline changes. The strategy 1.4.2.3 was amended at the request of the commission to reflect more than just posters and newspaper articles. And so with that, I will try to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, are there questions of staff? Okay, let's open to the public, close it to the public. Is there a motion on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve amendment number 20-2016-02B relating to recreational land use uses.
Is there a second? Can we take a vote on this?
Vice Chairman Shavir,
Yes.
Member Baker, Member Ritchie, Chairman Williams.
Yes. And the last item passes. So I knew we were going to set records, so. Can we go to city reports?
On your at your seats was just a copy of the summary of action from the last council meeting. The items that were heard previously by the commission were all approved as recommended by the commission, and so those items have been adopted. And I did because Vice Chairman Shavir asked before the meeting started. The new land development regulations will go into effect on April 23rd, and so prior to that, we are going to be bringing forth a corrective ordinance. After the code was adopted, we went back through just to make sure, try to eliminate any errors that we made during all of the reformatting. So we'll be bringing back a corrective ordinance to correct any of those errors that we did make. And along with that, I will be glad to give basically a brief overview of how the new code operates, because it is significantly different in format, not necessarily in regulations. And so I'll plan on doing that as well, just to refamiliarize everyone with these new how the new land development regulations will look and operate. So I plan on doing that just so that you all know.
Okay, Vice Chairman?
Would that be at a regular meeting where you do that? I mean, would it be dedicated to that process?
If we have a meeting agenda that's too lengthy, we can certainly schedule something that we can focus just on the land development regulations. We will probably try to keep whatever meeting we bring the corrective ordinance to fairly light anyways. And so if that's the case, then we can certainly spend the majority of the time at that meeting on that
I was just
topic.
wondering if we needed something special, but if we don't, it's fine. You know, if we can just do it at a regular meeting.
The corrective ordinance at this point is relatively simple. It's not a lot of really policy changes. It's just things that we may have erroneously left out of the code and are now making sure that we transfer over. So it's not going to be a lot of new information, really. So I think there will be sufficient time to go over the corrective ordinance and the format as well.
Will we be getting a binder or a book on how to look these things up like we did in our former, having a code, zoning book, a code regulations? Are we going to be able to have that available to us?
I can certainly put together, I don't know what, if you have something specific that was given to you before, I'm not aware of that, but I can certainly put together a presentation of how the new code operates, and that would be something that each member could certainly take with them. And I will go over that as well.
Yeah, because when we're home and we're reviewing, the agenda packages, we'll have a new way of looking things up and checking it, so we'll have to have that available to us.
Sure.
Thank you. Can I continue on with it?
Yes.
I have a question for you on something that we did last meeting, page 5 of 18, ordinance relating to sidewalk mitigation trust. And how are we going, I asked a question about how they prioritize that, or whether that's remember we had that discussion about how they determine which sidewalks get done first. And I was just wondering if you did anything, covered anything like that.
The ordinance itself did not cover anything like that. It didn't set priorities.
So how does I'm going back to that because I read the minutes. I'm just curious. How does the city prioritize the different streets that need to be? Is it by year, by just inspection, or how does that work when they decide to repair or repave a street?
I really can't answer that, to be honest. I'm not sure how Public Works programs the monies that are set aside for sidewalks. If I had to guess, it's probably somewhere along the lines of if they can connect areas that already have sidewalks together by installing a sidewalk, those would probably take precedence rather than necessarily just expanding a sidewalk through a neighborhood.
Rather than guess, I would say that we can ask Kevin Cook, the Public Works Director, if he has a policy or procedure on this, and we'll report back to you at your next meeting.
Okay, I appreciate that. And the other thing was the width of sidewalks. We had a discussion about that at one time. And since we're talking about that, is there some way of determining, the city determines how wide these sidewalks are, or is there a minimum standard and they just use that, generally speaking? I mean, we have sidewalks throughout the city that are really nice and wide, and you can walk 3 or 4 people abreast with no problem. And then we have other sidewalks that, if 2 people passing each other, if you're walking side by side, you got to line up, and let other people pass. I was just curious how they determine that also.
Let's see. If you give me just a second, I can look at that. Okay, so this is what the code says. This is in 3947. Sidewalks shall be at least 5 to 6 feet in width based on adjacent street classification and constructed according to the specifications set forth in the code. And so that basically, now new sidewalks would have to meet that requirement. However, older sidewalks that were constructed, many years ago may not meet that same requirement as what is required today.
So even if they're repaired, like say, you're going to repair a sidewalk, it just conforms to what was there previously, and that's
my understanding.
okay. Do they have any plans? Like sometimes, the reason I'm asking this is because the city's getting more populated, and this is turning out to be a little bit of a problem with these narrow sidewalks we have. And I'm just wondering if there's any way that there's something going on where they have plans to redo some of these like they do the streets. I mean, I was just curious because sometimes I find myself having to ride my bike on the sidewalk, which is really you're not supposed to do. But if you're on Knox McRae or you're on some sections of 405, you need to do that. I mean, you're taking your life in your hands when you go down the strip on the side of the street. And I would love to see the sidewalks really become safe for everybody, both cyclists and pedestrians, when they're forced to use them. That's my point.
Okay. That'd be something I'd have to look into and get back to you.
Okay. Chelsea, do you have anything you'd like to report?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. So we'll go to the school board. Anything from the school board?
Yes, I do have a 4-item note from Mr. Lindman from the school board. So I'll read it as it is. The first one is Spring 2017 Capital Outlay Committee meeting established under the Brevard County Interlocal Agreement for Public Schools Facility Planning and School Concurrency will meet April 5th, 2017 at 1:30 in the Facilities Conference Room. That was his first announcement. The second one is the 2017-18 school year calendar is now available on the web site, and the website's there, but it's a long one, so you'll find it, online, and it's in PDF form. The third item that he sent to me was the Brevard Public Schools Teachers Job Fair will be held Friday, March 17th from 8 to 12 at Vieira High School, and you can register for that online. And the last item that he sent, coming soon, the Brevard Public Schools Parents Survey, March 27th to April 7th, 2017, is on the BPS website, so they can, if they want to participate in the parents survey, they can go online and do that. And that's basically it, except that he hopes everything is going well in Titusville. So he did have some questions, and I think Trevor talked to me about some of the things he thought that he would ask for, because later this afternoon he sent me a list of building items that had been approved, and some of it's a little bit behind, but as we talked about before, this is going to make a huge difference with all the building that they're doing in the schools, because I read the capacity numbers to you, And most of it is on the south side of town, and those schools are already close to capacity. So it will make a big difference in the next 2 or 3 years. And right now they're working on the 5-year plan. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you. All right, so we'll go to, we'll just say petitions or requests from public present, and then we'll go down the board. Vice Chairman Shavir.
No report.
Member Baker. Member Ritchie. I have nothing, so we're adjourned.